It was a crisp autumn evening in Boston, the kind where the air smells faintly of fallen leaves and distant rain. Daniel Turner sat by the window of his small, tidy apartment, nursing a cup of coffee. The city lights reflected off the glass, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect. He glanced at the framed photo on his mantel. It was of him and his wife, Emily. Her smile in that photo could melt the hardest heart. Daniel often thought he had everything: success at work, loyal friends, and a love story that seemed straight out of a novel. But perfection, he would soon learn, has a way of hiding cracks. Emily walked in, her hair slightly tousled, carrying a bag of groceries. She looked tired but content. "Hey, you're still up," she said softly. "Couldn't sleep," Daniel replied. "Just thinking." She smiled faintly and placed the groceries on the counter. "About work again?" He shook his head. "No, about us." Emily's brow furrowed slightly. Daniel could tell she sensed the change in his tone. He had been unusually quiet all week, brooding over something he couldn't put into words. "Daniel," she said, her voice careful, "you're worrying again. It's nothing. Let's just enjoy the evening." He wanted to believe her. He really did. But a nagging unease gnawed at him. The truth was, Daniel had noticed a subtle shift in Emily's behavior over the past month. Small things. The way she smiled at certain messages on her phone, the quiet pauses when she mentioned old friends, the fleeting look of nostalgia in her eyes. He had tried to dismiss it, telling himself it was normal. Yet tonight, something felt different. Later that evening, Daniel's phone buzzed with an unknown number. He hesitated, but answered. "Hello?" he said cautiously. "Is this Daniel Turner?" a familiar voice asked. He froze. That voice, so clear, so charged with memories, belonged to someone he hadn't thought about in years. "Yes, who's this?" There was a long pause. Then the voice said softly, almost hesitantly, "It's Mark, Emily's first love." Daniel's hands shook. He put the phone down for a moment, trying to process the words. Emily's first love? That part of her life she'd never mentioned? Questions rushed through him like a storm. Why hadn't she told him? What did Mark want? And most importantly, what did this mean for their marriage? The next day, Daniel couldn't focus. At work, his colleagues noticed his distracted demeanor. Emails went unanswered, calls went missed. He replayed every moment he had shared with Emily, wondering if the smiles, the laughter, the quiet nights were truly hers, or if she had been holding back something critical all along. That evening, he confronted her. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but his heart racing, "I got a call today from Mark, your first love." Her eyes widened, and she swallowed hard. "Daniel, You never told me about him," Daniel interrupted, trying to keep his anger in check. "Why not? Why keep it a secret?" Emily stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I didn't think it mattered. He's part of my past, Daniel. I married you because of us, because of what we have." Daniel wanted to believe her. He really did. But a seed of doubt had been planted, one that refused to die. He felt like the world he had built, brick by brick, was starting to crumble around him. As the night wore on, he found himself pacing the apartment, replaying old conversations in his mind. Every smile, every memory, every promise began to feel tainted with questions he couldn't yet answer. He remembered the exact words she had said years ago on their first date. "I want a love that lasts, that's real." He had thought he had found it, but now, the truth about Emily's first love cast a shadow over that belief. Daniel finally sat back down at the window, staring out at the city lights. A quiet, sinking feeling filled him, one he couldn't shake. He didn't know it yet, but the revelation of Emily's past would start a chain of events that would challenge everything he believed about love, trust, and the life they had built together. And as he stared into the night, he muttered, almost to himself, "If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more touching tales." Little did Daniel know, the real storm was just beginning. The next morning, Daniel woke to the soft hum of the city outside. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, but it did nothing to warm the chill inside him. Emily was quietly making coffee, humming a tune he didn't recognize. He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he even begin? "Emily, about Mark," he finally said, his voice low. She turned, eyes wary. "Daniel, please, it's not what you think." But he wasn't sure he could believe her anymore. He remembered the phone call, Mark's calm, deliberate tone, the way his name had sounded familiar yet distant, like a ghost from another life. Daniel's mind raced with questions. How long had she kept this from him? Why now? And what did Mark want after all these years? "I need to know everything," Daniel said. His hands trembled slightly, and he felt a sudden heaviness in his chest. "No more secrets. Tell me about him." Emily sighed, leaning against the counter. She looked older, somehow smaller under the weight of his gaze. "Daniel, we were young. It was a long time ago. Mark and I, we were in love, yes, but it never went beyond that. I broke it off because I wanted something more, something real, with you." Daniel wanted to accept her words. He really did. But the seed of doubt had taken root, and it demanded answers he couldn't ignore. "You say it was a long time ago, but how long exactly? Did you think about him after we met?" His voice was calm, but each word was sharpened with tension. Emily hesitated. I thought about the past, yes. Memories don't just disappear. But I never wanted him back. I chose you, Daniel. I love you. That hasn't changed." Her words were sincere. He could feel that. But they didn't erase the unease settling in his stomach. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at a truth he wasn't ready to face. Daniel spent the day in a fog, distracted at work and restless at home. He kept replaying her explanation, twisting every sentence in his mind. The image of Emily, smiling at old messages, laughing at memories that weren't his, he couldn't shake it. By evening, he decided he needed more. He needed to confront the past before it consumed his present. He called Mark. The line clicked, and Mark's voice came through, calm, familiar. "Daniel Turner," he said. "I was wondering when you'd call." "What do you want, Mark?" Daniel asked, trying to mask the anger and fear in his tone. There was a pause. "I don't want anything. Not really. I just wanted to see how she was doing, how you both are doing." Daniel clenched his fists. "And now that you've found out about me, what, you want her back?" "No," Mark replied quietly. "I've moved on, but I need you to know something. Emily never forgot me completely. Not at first. You weren't the only one she thought about when she was alone. I know this will hurt, Daniel. I'm sorry." Daniel felt the room spin. He sank into a chair. It was one thing to know she had a past. It was another to hear someone else confirm it, someone she had once loved deeply. That night, Daniel barely slept. Every shadow in the apartment felt heavier. Every creak in the floor, a reminder that the life he thought he knew might be more fragile than he'd ever imagined. Emily tried to comfort him. Daniel, please, don't let the past destroy what we have. I chose you, not him. You are my life now." But he couldn't speak. How could he explain the storm inside him, the betrayal, the confusion, the fear that maybe her love wasn't as simple as he believed? By the next morning, Daniel made a decision. He needed clarity, not just promises. He needed to see Mark, to hear the story from the beginning, to understand how Emily's past had shaped her and, unknowingly, shaped the cracks in their perfect world. As he left the apartment, he glanced back at Emily, who stood silently by the door, her eyes full of worry. Daniel wanted to hold on to the love they shared, but the pull of truth was stronger. And so he stepped out into the chilly Boston morning, unaware that the journey into Emily's past would uncover not only hidden feelings, but also secrets that could change everything between them. The truth was coming, and Daniel had no idea how much it would shatter his perception of the life he thought was perfect. And in the quiet of her apartment, Emily whispered to herself, a hint of fear in her voice, "I hope he understands. I hope it's not too late." The weight of the past was about to collide with the present, and neither of them would be ready. Daniel found himself standing outside the small cafe Mark had asked to meet at. The autumn breeze rattled the leaves along the sidewalk, but it was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside him. Mark walked in first, tall and calm, his expression neutral but serious. Daniel studied him, noting the ease in his posture, the quiet confidence. He wondered how someone from Emily's past could still carry such weight in her life, even if only in memory. "Daniel," Mark said, extending a hand. Daniel hesitated, then shook it. They sat down. Mark's eyes were steady, almost piercing. "I imagine you have questions," he said quietly. Daniel exhaled slowly. "You could say that. I need to know everything. About you, about her, about the past you shared." Daniel's jaw tightened. How long? How long did this part last? Mark looked down at his hands, then back at Daniel. "A couple of years, off and on, before you came along. We were together in college, and after graduation, life took us in different directions. She ended it because she wanted stability, a life she felt we couldn't give her then. She told me she wanted something real. I didn't fight her. I loved her enough to let her choose her happiness." Daniel felt a rush of emotions, anger, confusion, jealousy, but also a strange sense of respect for Mark's honesty. "Do you regret it?" Daniel asked, barely above a whisper. Mark hesitated. "I regret some things. I regret not being able to hold on to her. But no, I don't regret loving her. She deserved happiness, and if she found it with you, then that's how it should be." Daniel nodded slowly, trying to process it all. He thought of Emily, of the smiles she had given him, the nights they had shared, the future they were building. Could those memories survive this revelation? "Daniel," Mark said, leaning forward slightly, "I'm telling you this not to hurt you, but because I think you need to understand her fully. She has a past, just like we all do. It doesn't make her love for you any less real. But knowing the truth, it can't be ignored." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to trust her, to believe that her heart was wholly his. But he also realized that hiding from the past would only make things worse. When he got home, Emily was waiting, her face pale but determined. "How was it?" she asked softly. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the truth pressing down on him. "We talked. I know now. Everything about you and him. The past, the memories, what it meant to you." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "And?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He was wrestling with emotions he didn't fully understand. anger, fear, but also love. "I don't hate you," he said finally. I needed to know, and now I do. But I can't pretend it doesn't hurt." She reached for his hand. "I never meant to hurt you, Daniel. He's part of my past, but you're my present and my future. I chose you. Every day I choose you." He wanted to believe her, but trust, once shaken, is never easy to rebuild. Daniel spent the evening walking through memories of their relationship, examining every smile, every promise, every moment they had shared. And somewhere beneath the hurt, he found a flicker of understanding. Love, he realized, was complicated. The past doesn't vanish. It shapes the present in ways we often don't notice. But as Daniel tried to make sense of it all, he noticed something troubling. Emily's phone buzzing silently on the counter. A message preview flashed, "Can we talk? I need to see you." It was from Mark. Daniel froze, a cold wave of doubt sweeping over him. Was the past truly behind them, or had it only just begun to interfere? Emily noticed his hesitation. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "He was just apologizing for the call yesterday, that's all." But Daniel wasn't so sure. The past had a way of lingering, like a shadow at the edge of the light. And sometimes shadows can stretch further than you expect. As he looked at her, he realized that love alone might not be enough. Trust had to be rebuilt, and for that, he needed more than promises. The night ended quietly, but Daniel's mind wouldn't rest. He knew that the revelation of Emily's first love was only the beginning. Something was stirring beneath the surface, something that could either heal them or break them completely. The past wasn't done with them yet. The following week felt heavier than anything Daniel had experienced in years. Every glance at Emily, every laugh, every casual touch carried an echo of doubt. He wanted to believe her, but trust doesn't return easily once it's shaken. Emily noticed it too. She tried to be patient, to reassure him with gentle words and quiet gestures. But Daniel could see the tension in her eyes, the same fear he felt. Both of them were walking on fragile ground, afraid that one misstep could undo everything. One evening, Daniel found himself standing outside the old park where Emily and Mark had spent their college days. He had no idea why he came here. Maybe curiosity, maybe a need to confront the shadow of the past. He didn't turn. I needed to see where it all began, to understand why it feels like part of you is somewhere else. Emily stepped closer, her voice soft. "I want you to understand, Daniel. That chapter of my life was real, but it ended for a reason. You are my now. You're my forever." Daniel swallowed hard. "I want to believe that, but every time I see his name, every time I hear his voice, it shakes me." She reached for his hand. "Then don't shut me out. Let me help you carry it, not fight it alone. We can survive this, together." He wanted to hold on to her words, but the truth is stubborn. That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking of all the moments he had taken for granted. He remembered her laugh, the way her eyes lit up in happiness, the quiet nights of conversation, and he realized that love, even when complicated, was still love. The next morning, Daniel made a decision. He would meet Mark one last time, not out of suspicion, not out of jealousy, but to understand the full story. He needed closure, for himself and for Emily. Mark agreed to meet at a quiet riverside cafe, the kind where the city felt distant and the world slowed down. "I understand why you're here," Mark said, after a brief greeting. "You need clarity, and I owe you honesty." Daniel nodded. "I just want to know what she felt, what she lost, and why she left it behind." Mark sighed, looking at the flowing river. Emily loved me. She really did, but she chose differently. She chose stability, love that could last, a future she believed in. I wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. I let her go because I loved her enough to let her choose her life. I never stopped caring, but I accepted reality. That's all I ever wanted her to have. Daniel felt a strange calm settle over him. The storm inside was not gone, but understanding brought perspective. He realized Emily's past didn't diminish their love, it gave context to it. Returning home, Daniel saw Emily in the living room, holding a photo of the two of them on their first vacation together. He sat beside her, taking her hand. "I've spoken to him," he said quietly. "I think I understand now." Emily looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. "And?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The past is the past. You chose me, and I choose you. But we need to be honest, always. No more shadows between us." She smiled, tears brimming. "I promise, Daniel. No more shadows." For a moment, it felt like they could breathe again, like the world had shifted back to the quiet, steady rhythm of love. But Daniel knew healing wasn't instant. Trust had to be rebuilt day by day. Just as the relief started to settle in, Daniel's phone buzzed. A message preview flashed across the screen. "Daniel, we need to talk. Mark." Daniel froze. Emily noticed and asked, "Who is it?" "Mark," he said, voice tight. "He says he needs to talk again." Emily's eyes widened. What could he possibly want now? Daniel didn't answer immediately. The past, it seemed, wasn't finished with them. Shadows of old love had a way of lingering, even when everyone tried to move on. That night, they sat together in silence, the quiet weight of uncertainty pressing in. Love remained, yes, but so did questions that had no easy answers. And as the city outside shimmered in streetlights, Daniel realized something hard but unavoidable. Sometimes, to protect the present, you have to confront the past fully, even if it hurts more than you imagined. The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering strength. The following morning, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't avoid the truth any longer. Whatever Mark wanted to say, he had to hear it. Not for Mark, but for himself and for Emily. He found Mark waiting at the Riverside Cafe again, looking uneasy this time. Daniel approached cautiously, unsure if he was ready for whatever came next. "Daniel," Mark began, his voice low, "I shouldn't have called. I didn't mean to complicate things." Daniel sat down, folding his hands over the table. "Then tell me why. Why now?" Mark hesitated, eyes on the river. "I've been thinking a lot. Seeing you both, it made me realize that part of me wanted to say goodbye properly, to make sure you knew everything I ever felt, and that I never intended to come between you two." Daniel studied him carefully. There was honesty in Mark's tone. No threats, no hidden agenda, just truth, laid bare. "I see," Daniel said slowly. "So, that's it? You just needed closure?" Mark nodded. "Yes, I had my chapter with Emily. You have yours. I wanted you to know that nothing I ever felt diminishes what she has with you. I just wanted you to understand her past, so it wouldn't surprise you later. That's all." Daniel let the words sink in. It was a strange relief, like the weight he had carried for weeks was finally being lifted. The storm inside him began to calm. Returning home, Daniel found Emily in the kitchen making tea. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "How was it?" she asked, hope and worry in her eyes. "It's over. I understand now. The past is the past, and we We have our future, nothing more to worry about." Emily's eyes glistened. She walked over and took his hands in hers. "I was so afraid you'd never forgive me, or worse, that you'd leave." Daniel shook his head. "I love you, Emily. Not the memory of who you were, not the part of your life that came before me, but you, right now, with me. That's what matters." They embraced, a quiet understanding passing between them. It wasn't just love, it was trust, rebuilt piece by piece, stronger for the trials it had endured. Over the next few days, Daniel and Emily talked more than ever before. They shared feelings, fears, and hopes. The truth about her past, instead of being a wedge, became a bridge. They learned to accept each other fully, with all the history that came before and all the dreams that lay ahead. One evening, Daniel looked at Emily, her hair glowing in the warm light of the apartment, and he realized something profound. Love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about choosing each other, every day, even when life was messy and complicated. And for the first time in weeks, Daniel felt truly at peace. The shadow of doubt had faded, replaced by something far stronger: understanding, forgiveness, and an unshakable bond. Emily smiled at him softly. "We made it," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel replied, taking her hand. "We really did." Outside, the city pulsed with life, oblivious to the quiet triumph of two hearts learning to navigate the complexities of love. Inside, Daniel and Emily sat together, no words necessary, only the steady rhythm of two people who had faced the shadows of the past and emerged stronger than ever. The past had tried to shake their world, but love, true and patient, had endured. And for Daniel, that was more than enough.